Hello to all my beautiful listeners, and welcome to I Wrote That, a podcast where we bring authors and industry experts together to talk about all things books. Today, I have a guest, Dedra Stevenson, who is the author of Buchanan Bastards. She's here to talk about all things that went into her many, many books. She's got quite a few, and her writing journey. And then at the end, as always, we have a special offer for you, so stick around. Welcome, Dedra.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So how are you doing? How's author life treating you?
Oh, I love it. Writing is such a part of me, a part of my experience that I don't feel happy when I'm not taking part in it. I have to write something a little bit every day, even if it's just a page. Even and I write screenplays as well, by the way, as well as novels. And I just feel like that's when you have that creative side of your personality, if you're not really doing something about it on a daily basis, you feel like a big part of your day is missing, you know? So I do try to include it in my daily routine.
Now I have to ask, did you start off let's talk about young Dedra. Were you always a writer? Were you always creative and tuned into that? Or did it start as an adult?
Yes, I think I was always creative because I kind of had to be. For those who might dig into my past more, you'll understand that my childhood was less than happy. It was actually quite tragic in many ways, and I think that I was such a painfully shy child. I mean, I know it's hard to imagine me like that now because I'm so out there on TikTok and on Facebook and Instagram. I'm very, very social. But when I was a kid, all of that trauma left me very shy and I was really afraid to interact with people a lot. And I spent a lot of time in the library, and books were a very good friends of mine, and I really escaped into stories, and I wrote stories as well, as a matter of something to do, something to really feel like I was anywhere but where I really was. I mean, I think that if you can't escape in your body, you can always escape in your mind. When you're a writer or any sort of creative, it's your happy place,
Yeah, totally. I get that. And that, that's the number one reason I started writing. I started writing as a child. I really enjoyed short stories and things like that. And then I lost it for a number of years, and I came back to it as a, adult. And I was in the throes of very heavy depression, and I was really struggling. And kind of like you said, I couldn't escape physically. I couldn't pick up and move and leave.
Right.
But I needed the mental escape. And so when reading is really, really good, but sometimes there's still this void of you're not getting the story that you need in the moment. And if you don't see it, write it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's
So
a matter of expressing as well. You express something that you really need to express. I think some ways, even when I was a little kid, even through characters that I would make up, I would express things that I was maybe a little too shy to say in real life. And I'm still doing that in my novels today. Through some of the characters that I make up, I say things that only that character would have the chutzpah, to say out loud.
Yeah, let's talk about character development. How do you go about creating your characters?
Well, I start off with the story for me just sort of unfolds organically. I'm not much of an outliner or anything like that. I know people may be, shaking their finger at me at this point and going, no, but that's just the way I do it. It sort of comes to me as a skeleton sort of piece. And I think that would be a really cool story. It's in my mind that way. It's almost like a movie that I'm watching. And I get it. I just start from, page one, and I introduce the main character, and then I go from there, and other characters come into that character's life, through experiences or through connections. Like Laura Lynn, the protagonist of Laura Lynn Buford. She's the protagonist of the Buchanan bastard. Well, she's one of them anyway. She's the main protagonist. And in her life, comes love, through Brian Buchanan. And then her father, joins the stage. And then there's all the people that Brian grew up with and his tragic story as a child. And, one by one, the characters are added. Do you see what I'm saying? It starts off with one dot on a page and then circles around that and around that. And, just as we do in life, there's Larissa, but then there's Larissa's family. And then there's people that interact with Larissa every day, like teachers or coworkers and, what have you. Right.
Yeah.
But it all starts with that one character, that one main character that gets the ball rolling.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say that, because my stories are very similar. In the Gatlin series, my sci-fi books, it started with one character, Alexia, and she's singular when she starts. And then, you kind of build the support network around her. What does she need to continue? What has made her who she is? But the really interesting part about that is when I was going out for like ARC readers, one of the feedback I got was this: I didn't show her family enough. And I like, reviews are so funny because sometimes they totally miss the mark and sometimes they're really good. When I wrote her story, it wasn't about her family. And that was the whole point. The whole point was that she had lost herself in being a mother, being a wife, being an employee, being everything else for everyone. And it wasn't her anymore. And so to hear that, like, oh, we didn't get enough of family, it was kind of like, in my mind, it was like, good. That wasn't the point. The point was to bring her out of that motherhood role. So I love that you have brought in more protagonists, because it just gives you more layers of relatable characters, if that makes sense.
Exactly. It so does make sense. In fact, and I guess it's inevitable as well that some of our characters are going to take on characteristics of people that we know, or, even ourselves. There's a little bit of us in some of the characters. I mean, there's a little bit of me in Laura Lynn. I can absolutely tell you that. It's not a secret. Anybody who reads the book will be able to recognize Dedra and Laura Lynn's words and her actions. But then there's a little bit of me in Vlad as well, the main villain. Because I tend to think that villains are very interesting to write, and they're certainly the most fun to write, in my view, because they're freeing, they're liberated. They can say and do whatever they want. And it's just, it's so great to be able to really embrace that dark side sometimes and let your own dark side have a chance to come out. Does that sound wrong?
No, not at all. And I think that, like, in the recent years, morally gray protagonists have become so popular. And I think it's because they're fun to write and they're more relatable. Like, I am not 100% pure in any way, shape, or form. And so writing a character that kind of starts to embody that, that mixed feelings of emotions and where you're going is so human. It's so human, and it's refreshing.
I think so. I really do. I had that experience with all of the books I've written, even the Hakima's Tale, the Blue Genie, when the Blue Genie wanted to wipe out humanity because he felt that humans had ruined their right to live on this planet by all their horrible, evil actions. Well, that's just a little bit of what's in the back of Dedra's mind, especially in today's world, right? I mean, let's think about it. I mean, we're ruining the environment, we're causing a lot of world havoc and wars and everything. So I think it's pretty understandable that the Blue Genie might feel that way.
Yeah. And it's nice for readers to find something they can connect with, like, on that. And that, like, in my coaching programs, it's the number one thing we talk about is how are you going to build the connection with your readers so that they want to keep reading. And,
Mm.
for some, a book like The Blue Genie is not going to be for everyone. Some people are going to be like, that is not for me. I don't believe that at all. And others are going to be like, I 100% agree with that. And that is a 5-star book. Like, right. But that's the point. Your book
True.
is meant for someone. It's not meant for everyone.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
just like a painting or, a sculpture or any other work of art. It's not going to be to everyone's liking. And I think that's okay. That's
Yeah.
actually okay.
I think it is too. And let's talk about like reviews, because we already touched on it a little bit in ARC readers, like advanced reader copies. And you've written 8 books, so you probably have quite the experience with reviews and things like that. How do you manage the feedback?
Well, I mean, thankfully, so far, knock on wood, it's been mostly positive. So I hang on to the positive things that people have said. And okay, yes, I have had a few negative reviews as well, but you know what? It's just like it's life. That's how I look at it. That's life. I mean, even in my daily life, not everyone likes what I say all the time, or they don't like my opinion about everything. In fact, I think in this day and age that we live in, where people are pretty critical of every opinion, that it's pretty. I mean, if you really run the numbers, it's not surprising that there's going to be a few people who don't really care for what you said,
Mhm.
or what you wrote in your book. So that's fine. I mean, they're entitled to their opinion. But as for me, I'm not really going to let it steer me away from writing what's truly in my heart, what I really need to write. For
Yeah.
me, it's more about the expression, the artistic expression, and the story that I need to put out there, rather than catering it to opinions. But, I find that if you do that, if you really stay true to what you want to say, what your book represents, then I think that the good reviews just come.
Yeah.
They just come by themselves. And I think that's why I've had mostly a positive turnout. And hopefully, if God's willing, they'll keep on rolling in that way.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's kind of 2 points I want to touch on there. Like the first one is I have this freebie that I give to my email list and my coaching clients and things like that, of like how to handle negative feedback. Because if you're anything like me, extremely sensitive to feedback. Even like positive feedback makes me feel squeamish and uncomfortable. But, the number one question I ask myself is, do I give this feedback permission to change the way I think or feel? And 100% of the time it's no. I do not give that feedback
Absolutely.
permission. So that's a really good, powerful question to ask yourself. And then the second thing is how you market yourself will change the type of feedback you're getting. So for example, if you know who you're talking to, if you know who your book is meant for, who's going to resonate with your messaging the most, and you're speaking directly to those people, that's who you're going to attract. And those people are going to leave you good reviews because they believe in your
Yes,
messaging, right?
absolutely.
Whereas if you have, let's talk about like Facebook ads, for example. If you don't get specific on like your demographics and your psychographics, it's going to target the world. Someone's going to pick up your book that has no business reading your book and leave you a 1-star review because it just wasn't meant for them.
Exactly. It's not their cup of tea.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's fine. We can't always like every book that we don't like every movie that we watch, do
Mhm.
we? We don't
Mhm.
like every television show that we watch. Sometimes we stop in the middle of the program and just switch the channel.
Yeah.
Books are the same. I think it's just the same. So I just sort of let it slide off, when somebody has something negative to say. And that's exactly actually the kind of thing that I just put in my mind. It just wasn't their cup of tea. It's not
Yeah.
my fault. But I do hang on to some experiences that I've had. For example, at book signings, I've had some of my previous books before The Buchanan Bastard were more for like young adult readers, like say, for example, 12 years old. And I've had a few kids come up to signing tables and they just rave about like the Hakima's tale. And they talk about how wonderful they think Phoenix Qasim is, the protagonist, and how they just want to be like her. And they just think it's so cool that I'm writing. And, when am I going to write something else? And the looks in their faces and those words, I hold those in my heart. And I hold those images in my mind. And some of the words that some of my positive reviews have had, I want everyone to know who's ever written me a positive review, I hold those words in my heart. I do. And it gives me power to keep going.
Yeah.
And I only let myself see them. I really do.
Yeah. So let's go back to Buchanan Bastard. You have a freebie you're giving away, and the book, for all the listeners, is going on sale for 99 cents on March 21st. So you're definitely going to want to get in line for the exclusive link that Dedra is going to be sending out. And you can do that by grabbing her free chapter. So let's talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, it's available through my website. My website is blueginnymedia.com. That's BLUEJINNI media, MEDIA.com. And it's actually the first page that pops up right now. So I don't think you'll have any trouble finding it. If not, just type in, under the search term, the Buchanan Bastard, and everything regarding that will pop up. The link is right there, as a sample chapter, free. And it's not the sample chapter that's given in the Kindle app as well. It's a chapter from more far within the novel. So that's the only way that you can find it.
Awesome. So we'll drop the link to that in the show notes. So be sure to grab that. And again, get in line for the exclusive sale on March 21st for 99 cents, which is always fun. I love offering that to my listeners. Let's wrap up with my favorite question. What advice do you have for aspiring or even established authors?
Well, I'll tell you what, I also do writing coaching, book coaching as well. And one thing that I like to remind people about is that, we can all, so let's say, for example, you wanted to be a singer. We can all sing. Actually, we all sing. We sing in the car, we sing in the shower, we actually do sing. But to sing professionally, you need to train and you need to work hard at it. You need to do your vocal push-ups, if you will, So what I like to give to my students is basically literary push-ups. That's what I call them. So writing exercises that will stretch your mind, stretch your imagination. You need to really put the work in. And the trick is not to really think of it as work. Think of it as me time, something that you're doing just for your own personal fulfillment. And you need to make your time to get with that work every single day. Clear your head, find your writing environment, something that works for you, whether that be at a desk at home or at a coffee shop, if you like that sort of thing, or on the beach, or, and in your garden. I mean, there could be all kinds of places where your mind tends to be more open than other places. And let it flow. Don't worry about grammar, spelling, anything when you're just sort of letting those words out at first. To start with one character, just like we said, one character, and describe them fully. What's that character like? What do they like? What don't they like? Where do they live? How do they look? What do they wear? What sort of things would they say to people if they were in a conversation? Now you start building the world around them, just like, and it's such a power, when you really get into it. It's almost creator-like. I mean, I think we get a little sliver of what the great creator of the world, has done in us when we do this. We get to feel the joy of it, by building everything that character has around them, all the people they love, the people that support them, the places they go, the sights they see. It's fantastic. So have fun with it, but stick with it. And remember that it is just like any other form of artistic expression. It does require push-ups every day.
Yeah.
Don't forget to do your exercises. Yes.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Dedra. And remember to grab her book on March 21st, The Buchanan Bastard, and grab her free chapter at the link in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.